Oh my goodness, people. One second. We are in a hotel lobby, and the audio's not going to be great, the video's not going to be great, but the content's going to be great. Give me a second here, because I don't have a second monitor. I need to do a couple things the old-fashioned way, all on one screen. Here we go. We'll at least add some lo-fi. Oh, actually, you know what it is? That's right, on a Mac, I can't broadcast the desktop audio. That's right, it's so freaky that it does that. Oops, let me put this back over here. I wonder if there's like copyright-free music on Spotify. Let me find out. Actually, I don't even know if I can stream Spotify music on the Mac. I think that I've ran into this issue before. One second. Audio input. No, yeah, that is what it is. I can't capture audio from the Mac through OBS, so that's unfortunate. So we can't have the nice lo-fi in the background today. But, you know, you're welcome to pull it up yourself in the background. Let me just pull up chat on my phone. Live here. Is it working? How bad is this internet? Let me see. I'm pulling up my phone. One second. Let's listen. All right, test. Listen. Test. Okay, it could be worse, honestly. All right, folks, just put up your own music. I'll write that in the chat. On MacBook, can't play music because Apple things. Pull up your own background music. Okay, there we go. Well, folks, what a great weekend it was. There's a lot to go over. I really said I wasn't going to do another stream until Worlds, but here I am, kind of light on work on a nice Monday in this hotel, and I figured why not go over some of the stream games, because I was on stream twice this weekend, apart from running the stream all day yesterday. It was really great. It was really great. So there's a lot to talk about, and these games that were caught on camera were fantastic. I could not be happier with the quality of game on here. So I want to go over it because this weekend was some of the most competitive Flesh and Blood I've ever played. This weekend in Denver it was like a mini Worlds. We had Australians here, we had UK folks here, we had, you know, half the US represented, all at this one battle hardened, like over 120 players, something like that. Because people are really treating this as the last chance for a big push for practice before Worlds. And the competition was nuts. Team Ascent is local to the Denver area anyway, and they're fantastic. So I got to play against, out of both days, only like 2 new players. And normally when you go to an event like this, you'd think maybe, you know, like a good third of your games are like not free, but you know, they're against newer players, lower skilled players that are getting there. But this event, out of 8 rounds on Saturday, 7 rounds on Sunday, I think I had 2 kind of easy games. Everything else, absolutely stressful. Hard as heck. Insane player quality. Let me pull up the live chat. There we go. Okay. So the first thing to go over. Also, you can hear me, right? I don't see anything happening in chat. That's a rarity. Hello, Eric. What's up? Hello, BH. I hope this is okay. All right, cool. So what I wanted to go over first, and I hope that I can full screen and we can still preserve the stream here. I'm not entirely sure how this is gonna work. I don't like running stuff on my Mac because it's super finicky with OBS. Okay, but I think we can still see this. Might need to rescale a bit, 1 second. Window capture, let's scoot this down. Scoot this just a little bit down. And then we can full screen and see what happens. How does that look? 1 second, we're gonna catch up on my phone. Yeah, that looks better. Alright, cool. We can see a bit of the timer. Alright, cool. So let's jump into this game. And I'll field any questions y'all have, because let me tell you, this was a great showing to get people excited for Levia. This weekend, the entire buzz was, holy shit. Like, Levia is good. Like, you are crushing it. Well, you are, like, the meta is folding. I went X2 both days, just as like a bit of a primer here. I bubbled out of both cuts. I went X2, which was good enough for top 8 at the Battle Hardened, but I ended up 14th. I went X2 at the PTI event, ended up 11th, which, you know, it's unfortunate because in retrospect, looking at how to make that better, those situations better, the reality is 2 losses is actually a fantastic, fantastic record for Levia. You cannot be mad going X2 because you're going to take a loss to variance in a tournament that long, which happened both days. I did have like, you know, 1 BS loss, but it's whatever. Like, I accept that. But the other loss was like a legitimate loss. And you can't pretend that you're going to go undefeated like in a field this competitive, in a field this good, where you're not favored into every matchup. You can't just pretend you'll go undefeated, right? There were no undefeateds in either day going into the top cuts, for example. Like, everyone was at least X1. So going X2 with Levia felt fantastic. I was loving it. 6-2 and then 5-2. It felt great. Issue being, though, when I took those losses, wasn't good enough for top 8. So in terms of like tweaking, you know, how I perform going forward, I just have to hope and pray that my, you know, like personal loss, the loss I take to maybe like a misplay or disrespecting my opponent or whatever it is, I need to make sure that loss comes as late in the day as possible. I need to make sure that's my round 7, my round 8 loss, because the variance loss I can't control. That can be round 1, who knows? But the loss that I take due to myself or the matchup, whatever, I have to make sure that's so late in the day that I still make the top cuts, because I can't expect to go better than X2. I just can't. So this game on stream, for example, this was an amazing one actually, because we were both undefeated going into round 4, and the room was a buzz. The room was nothing but, you know, chatter. What the? Table 1 is Levia versus Kano? What is going on? What is this meta game? And of course we had to pair into each other, which wasn't fun. I would love it if he kept destroying one side of the bracket and I destroyed the other side. I was eating the Oldhams for him, and he was eating the aggro for me, and we were trying to work together here. But then we ran into each other at table 1 in round 4, both undefeateds. And I mentally conceded this game before I even sat down, because I took out my sideboard that was specifically against Arcane Icelander that would be possible into Kano, because no one's playing Arcane Icelander anymore. It's just not having the results that Bull Icelander is. So I disrespected a pure Arcane matchup even before the event, like, you know, days and days ago. I was like, nah, we're not going to play around Arcane Icelander. And the unfortunate side effect of that is I have nothing truly specifically to beat Kano either. And Kano is inherently a really hard matchup regardless for Levia, because you struggle to fill your graveyard with any kind of blocking. Right? The only attack in his deck is probably a Nourishing Emptiness, and sometimes they even cut that for consistency. So it's definitely a tough matchup. It's an inherently flawed matchup mechanically because you don't get to block. And I made it even worse for myself for not having the proper equipment in my deck to handle this. So namely, to point that out, like we'll just press play here, get into it. Let's see when I reveal equipment here. By the way, shout out to Joey Seinart, who streamed this event and brought in like a bunch of community casters. The one issue I had was you could tell none of the casters knew anything about Levia. But how can you fault them for that? Like, you know, they need to, whenever Levia's on stream, they need to ping me, and I'll hook them up with a fantastic League of Levia to do commentary. How about that? All right, Joey, just hit me up next time. Because unfortunately, the casters, I love them to death. They did a great job. They powered through this like 12-hour day, but no one knows what's going on with Levia, and it is so almost cringe to listen to the commentary. Like it hurts me a little bit because it feels like a communal disrespect towards Levia. This idea that like her cards aren't even worth learning, not even for like the caster's sake. It's crazy. But here we go. So revealed on stream, as you can see here. I flip equipment over. It's Scabskins, Carrion Husk, Skullhorn, Gamblers, 1 Claw, 1 Lantern. Now the issue with this is truly built to beat Bull Icelander. I'm going to take this into Bull Icelander. I'm going to have AB3. I'm going to assume my Blood Rush turns never were going to go further than 1 Claw anyway because of disruption, so I don't mind losing a second Claw. And then I'm also playing into the recursion package with this list with like Ghostly Visit and Howls, so having Scabskins and Gamblers is a bit of an extra push for when they Hypothermia me or when I want to get Ghostly Visit value, and the Scabskins actually get full block value as well. And I did beat a Bull Icelander, I believe, in like round 3 going into this, and the strat works perfectly. So that's why I have that equipment suite. The issue is this absolutely sucks into Kano. If I wanted to board more specifically against an Arcane version deck, I would run Hooves of the Shadow Beast, I would run Goliath Gauntlet, and I'd probably run Null Rune Robe, and then still run Double Claw. You can get away with like Husk just in case of blocking out a Nourishing, so that's okay. But against Kano, like Double Claw is quite good because you can get off a Blood Rush without disruption. So what you see, what you see just happened there. Sorry, distracting myself with all the metagame commentary. Okay, what actually happened on screen though is something that I really regretted as soon as it happened. So the Kano player luckily didn't go tall with any Arcane turn 1. He just plays an Epot. So him doing that gave me a sign that, all right, I can get greedy with this Art of War in hand. Sorry, let me back up again. When he does that, I read the game state and see, okay, I can actually go ahead and get Graveyard Fill going right now. I'm going to sack an Art of War, but my hand otherwise is only really showing 6, maybe 9. Is it frozen? There we go. So if I'd held the Art of War for my own turn, I'm hoping that I banish the Beast Within into like a playable attack into a Claw Swing. So that's what would have happened if I kept the Art of War on my own turn. It probably converts to 9 damage. However, by playing Art of War on turn 0, I'm instead saying, okay, forget Art of War's Go Again feature. I'm going to get it in Graveyard right now. +1 Graveyard right now, so that my other draw discard cards are so much more live if I hit them, and it'll just get me going with tempo immediately. Like if I draw a Blood Rush here, having 1 card in Graveyard is all I need to pop off, because Blood Rush will go to Graveyard, a 6 will go to Graveyard, and I'd have the Art of War from turn 0, and then boom, I can even start with a Blood Rush out the gate. I could have drawn into like Pulpings, Wild Rides, anything like that, and just say go, because that would have hit Graveyard, the card discarded would have hit Graveyard, that would have put me 3 in Graveyard with the Art of War, and then I could have played a real attack with the Go Again. So the Art of War was very strategic in trying to get me 2-3 cards, but the issue was I drew into a completely dead hand. Like awful. Awful. It was triple red Blood Debt cards and a blue Deadwood Rumbler. So that was rough, because I can either swing Claw and Arsenal, or I can pitch my whole hand, play Deadwood, and at least draw discard with Deadwood, and get my Graveyard going a little bit further. It leaves me completely open to Arcane, but at this point in the game, I had to take the gamble that he just doesn't smack me for that much, and I'm able to get the Graveyard Fill going and completely filter my hand and draw closer towards draw discard effects that can actually get me ahead in this matchup. So, am I good? Yeah, Pietro, thank you. How are you doing, man? Good to see you. Sorry, the chat is like on my phone, so it's... Let me pull it up so I can actually see it better. Yeah, I'm doing great. This weekend was awesome. And we're going to go over some of the best games. Well, one of the best games I've ever played. Not this one, but the Bravo game coming up next is unreal. That game was incredible. So you can already see the play lines are like super forced on my end. It's a lose-lose from how this situation panned out. I just got one of those Levia hands that is absolutely punishing in this matchup because I can't fill the graveyard. So it's rough, but the way he plays out his turn is actually not that punishing for me either. He only pushes 5 Arcane, and actually will end up taking 6 damage. So in terms of the turn cycle, technically I won with damage presented, but I don't have an Arsenal here, whereas he does, and of course he kept 2 cards as well. But every bit of damage is important because I need to make this game as short as possible. I need to deny his ability to just say, oh yeah, I'll drop a potion, I'll set up this, set up that, and then kill you because, I deal non-interactable wildfire OTK damage. So I need to pressure him to the point where he's forced to just kind of YOLO it instead of actually set it up. Now, unfortunately, as the game keeps going, I'm just not seeing great power cards. Like, this is a fresh 4 cards, right? And I'm still missing a draw discard. I still don't see, like, a Blood Rush obviously would be insane, but I'm running triple Pulping, triple Wild Ride, and those are great extenders. Now, Swing Big is okay. Swing Big you can't hate. So that was at least fortunate, but this is still a little bit of a lack of damage push and a little bit of lack of graveyard fill. So I'm just doing what I can. It's very much up to the Kano to abuse me in situations like this because I don't have anything floating. My damage is super telegraphed. It's not like it could be a pummel. So we're just playing that phase of the game. Nothing I can really do. We're just hoping that I get ahead on the damage trade. And the way it keeps panning out here is... I'm going to skip through some of this because it's... Honestly, Kano is like not the most interactive deck. I just want to point out like some decisions I made. So it goes back over to the Kano's turn, and he's just throwing Arcane. And the thing about it is With this hand here, I actually do have enough resources to fully protect my HP with a blue and still return with a bit more of a threat. So these kind of hands are quite nice. Of course, I see a Doomsday, which is the only unfortunate part, because in a alternate reality where I actually could cast Doomsday as early as like turn 3 or 4 and stick Plasma Vet, I probably win that game. So we're already out of that scenario being ever possible. But it's okay. Like, it's a blue pitch in hand. I'm going to throw out the Shadow Plasma Vet. We're going to see where the turn takes me. We're feeling okay, relatively okay, and especially because his Sonic Boom doesn't cast an additional card off the top. So that's lucky on my end, right? I can't interact with that. I can't block 4 if I wanted to. It's just up to him to have a good card on top or not. So that was lucky. And then we go into another lucky turn where I go ahead and roll Scabskins because I'm trying to pull out the Ghostly Visit from my deck. And knowing that it's in my list right now, I have to preemptively roll Scabskins because the Shadow Plasma itself obviously doesn't have Go Again. So this gives me a huge safety net though, because discarding with Shadow Plasma and actually hitting also will turn on Claws and get me Ghostly, which in theory, if I'm able to keep a even yellow card, is going to be completely payable this turn. Shadow comes in for 6, the yellow covers the Claw, and then the Ghostly's playable off that last resource that's floating right here, right now. So it felt pretty good. Like, this turn cycle starts going my way. Having a Ghostly Visit at all is also fantastic, because if I start finding things like Dread Screamers, it's a 2-card hand for 10. That rate gets unlocked from plays like this. It's also quite good in this exact scenario where I don't have any other Blood Debt yet. So now if I do hit that part of my deck that is Wild Rides and Pulpings, I'm more likely to be able to go Pulping, Claw, Ghostly Visit, and not worry about turning off Blood Debt. So that's a really great early play line that was unlocked this turn. So this turn, I actually start feeling good. You can tell I have these mannerisms in this game. I had tilted my Levi card sideways because I had just mentally conceded the game. And I was trying to, show it for stream that, like, look, our girl is dead. Just, don't get your hopes up. But I turn her right side up this turn. I flip her up. Because actually this turn goes really, really well, especially when he commits to blocking 3 on the Shadow right now. It tells me that I can spend my resources and actually get greedy with a new arsenal here and probably not get punished too much. So I changed the plan, and I do just cast out the Boneyard Marauder now. It's not exactly the hand I was going for with, like, Claw into Ghostly. It's 1 less damage than that, but I'm valuing the card in Arsenal, which I don't quite remember what it is that I put there, but I'm sure we will find out. Let's see, we can skip forward a bit here, because he just ends up blocking again, keeps another 2-card hand to throw some more damage. Oh no, sorry. He does keep a 2-card hand, but it is just to play out a Potion of Deja Vu, and then he keeps another card in hand. So that's a really big tell that he's probably trying to protect around a combo card. Because if he had even another potion, he would have just used it on Kano just to see what he'd hit off the top. He wouldn't want to keep 2 non-blocks in hand. So he's definitely got a card in hand that is part of his kill combo, because he's getting relatively close. I'm at 33, which is well within what he can do even through AB3. I think the highest combo they can deal with, like the Blazing Wildfire, is like 34 through AB3. So I actually am, in theory, dead if he sets that up. So that's definitely why he keeps the card there. So in a turn like this, I have to just try to make him block with that card, do as much damage as I can to really, really force his hand here, to make him potentially dead to even something like, a Pulping with Dominate off the top of my deck, a 2-card hand that I can spend my other resources pitching into AB on, whatever it is. So unfortunately, though, with this draw, I have triple reds and a blue. So I'm thinking about this Scabskins reroll quite a bit, because it's pretty much my last chance to get value off Scabskins. I already hit 4 last turn, and now if I break it and hit, it's a huge win. It's an extra 4 damage, or extra 3 damage, that I otherwise would have never gotten a chance to play in the game. Because I'm assuming from where he blocked last turn, he is going to kill me within 1.5 turns. His turn and then my turn, right? So this is my last chance to realistically use Scabskins, and I actually have a really terrible hand to pitch into Arcane Barrier anyway, and it looks like that's not what he's trying to do on my turn here anyway, because he already started blocking. So I'm free to pitch double reds here just for 3 damage on the Claw. It's not great. Anyone have a link to the footage we're watching? It's on the Dex and Drots YouTube channel. So I can pull that for you. Dex and Drots. Let's drop it here. There we go. Yeah, we're gonna take a look at two of the games. So there's the Kano game that we're seeing now, and then there's a Bravo game, which is probably like the best game I've ever played. It was insane. Um, but here we go. So this is where I'm pretty much convinced that the the game is likely over, because I drew a Blood Rush hand, which is good early in the game against Kano. It's good when you can likely play it out and they can't just lethal you on the discard, and so you could get the damage through, like over their hand that they want to block with or whatever it is. But when you see a hand with Blood Rush right now, when you're within kill threshold, which amazingly is 33 life, it's really, really scary. So I go back to my mental concession. Decks and drafts. Decks and drafts, really? Wow, DRAUGHTS is drafts. Huh, did not know that. Okay, cool, thank you. So yeah, we're back to mentally conceding at this point, which is unfortunate because I actually did have that great Shadow Blast Vet turn where I thought the game was maybe coming back around, but we had an awful turn one, and then we have this turn where I pretty much know I'm dead, but I have to go for it. I have to go for it, because if I don't go for it, then it's just an extra turn cycle where he gets to ping me a little bit more and guarantee that he kills me. So once again, I'm still convinced he's got it because he's been holding that card in hand. At least from doing it this way, I'm turning off Blood Debt on the Blood Rush discard. So worst case, somehow like he lets me draw, goes for lethal, I can just pitch in my cards to Arcane Barrier and not worry about taking Blood Debt. You know, at least this gives me a little bit more of an option tree, but it really does look awful. Is the new Assassin going to be your new second? Can't wait to see more the Bravo game. Yeah, I really like Arachne. I love it. I was in the camp that I was really hoping he'd be Shadow, and there'd be like maybe a couple new cards that would be dropped in for us Levia players. But the cool thing about Arachne existing is we have some of the only interaction with his equipment in the game. We have Deadwood Rumbler, which was already something I was playing around with heavier counts of because of Phi, to banish their Phoenix Flames. But target banishing an Arachne's mask or boots is insane. Like, you will win that game. You will win that game. So I'm pretty excited. Like, whether I play him or not, Levia, once again, actually has a bit of a mechanical counter to a good hero. So that's quite cool. But here we go. So what happened this turn cycle gave me a little bit of hope in that Gavin was not entirely convinced he had the kill, because if he thought he had the kill, I would have thought, playing into Kano, that he would go for it before I drew from the Blood Rush. But he is a god tier Kano, not just a good Kano. And what he was waiting for specifically was for me to have 0 resources floating. Because that's the difference between what he just saw on the Blood Rush discard and now. Because on the Blood Rush discard, I still had 1 resource floating. And that is incredibly important for how we see this turn play out. Because now he knows I can't even pitch into AB1. And unfortunately, that is just something that happened with the draw. I don't draw a blue, so there's nothing I can do about having 1 floating. Nothing I can do, which is really unfortunate because one resource was what I needed to survive, as we see. I'm gonna skip forward because he thinks for like a long ass time because he's a Kano player. And he also is asking me like for responses. I'm like, dude, what do you want me to do? Like, I got no response. You think I have a sigil in Arsenal? I wish. So unfortunately, he goes off with his turn, and what you're going to see here is Wildfire for 6, which I do have to eat, right? I do have to eat it. Into... Come on, let's keep going. Then he plays a Zap, which he puts back on top from his Potion of Deja Vu. So the Zap then comes in for 7. And then the Blazing Aether kills me with 19 damage. Now the thing about that is, if I had even 1 resource, right? If I had 1 resource, I would pay it into the Arcane Wildfire. I would take 5. Then the Zap would only deal me 6. Would have taken 11. And then the Blazing Aether would have only dealt 16. Which would leave me at, what, 1 life? Right? 11, 16. No, 2. What the hell just happened with my math? I'd be alive, though, okay? I'd be alive with literally even 1 resource. With even just 1 resource, it would have saved me 4 damage. Because it would pay into the Arcane Wildfire, which would save me a life there. It would minus the amount of damage the Zap dealt by 1. And then it would minus the amount of damage Blazing Aether dealt by 3. Right? Because it's counting Arcane dealt from the Wildfire, what Wildfire dealt itself, plus what Zap dealt, and then it counts it back on blazing. So 1 resource would have saved me 5 HP, if I'm counting that right, which would have been enough to live and actually win, which is crazy. Like, that's actually crazy that this game went so well, with me seeing the worst early game I think I've ever seen, and with me having the worst equipment possible in this matchup. So even though it was a loss, it was a way better loss than I expected. And so I felt okay with that. Like, in the end, he was a little shaken up about it because he was scared as well. And he should have been, because if I drew a blue on that Blood Rush, I don't lose there, which is crazy. Like, what a game. So that was a good one to get on cam, actually. Like, I knew it was a loss before we even played, but I didn't expect it to look like this, because this actually made it look quite good. And this was with, I'm telling you, like the worst Levia plays you could think of for like the first turn. But okay, let's get to the really good game. Probably the best game I've ever played. I'm so happy with this. All right, let's skip to exactly where it starts. Any questions about that Kano game? Any tips y'all want? Because honestly, it's a matchup that I would hope as Levia players we can all just dodge. It's not one that we should ever really want to play. It's inherently flawed. But as you can see, even like a recursion aggro deck has some play into it. Oh my goodness, where's the start of this video? Here we go. Okay. Skip to the beginning. Okay. So at this point in the tournament, right, this is the last round. This is round, what, 7 or 8? I forget how many we played. I think round 7, maybe. This is the last round, and in theory, the both of us were actually playing for top 8, because an X2 would make top 8. So I didn't think it was going to be me, and he didn't think it was going to be him because of where we took our most recent loss. I'd lost in like round 5. So if we'd been X1, then we were playing probably to be the X2 that makes it into top cut. But the casters were hopeful that maybe one of us would actually make it, so they thought we were playing for an actual top 8 spot. I pretty much knew we weren't, even though we were at table 9, which is like pretty up there. The way the math worked out, like, it just wouldn't be us. But it was still a really, really good game. I'm glad they asked us to be on camera because I quite like Edward. That was my opponent here, Edward Knight. He is like the North American Cale McCreath. He is like the Bravo guy. And if you've been watching the streams recently, I just cannot beat Bravo. Like, I just can't. It's not working. And it's crazy to me because I've played against Bravo so much that I really feel like I should not lose that matchup. Because it's a matchup of just calling bluffs a lot of the time. And Bravo's pretty telegraphed, and you normally need to make like 1 hedge block per game. And if you just play it correctly, you likely win. And you can build your side deck a little bit better to combat what Bravo can punish you with, which is like stripping your hand with Crippling Pummel. And for that, you can bring in like an energy potion and play out a 2-cost from Arsenal. Even if your hand is stripped, you turn off Blood Debt, on and on. There's things you can do to make the matchup better. But for this version of the deck, I was not running any of that. I was just running like kind of this standard like aggro package and then a recursion package. Recursion was trying to hit Dromize, was trying to hit Guardians. Aggro was pretty much trying to hit everything else. So I do side in the recursion strategy here, which means I'm going to be going for, Howl from Beyonds, pretty much. Like, I don't run the Deep Rooted Evil. That engine requires a lot of slots going towards Unworldly Velo, which doesn't quite fit when you run the aggro package. So instead, the recursion package here is quite literally just double Howl. And double Howl really works wonders in this meta. Like, Oldhim just can't outvalue that. It works really, really well. Bravo, you definitely can get a bit more punished into it because what you want to do with Unworldly is keep a 3-card hand of blue attack so that you can play Howl attack. And you don't always get to just say, yeah, sure, I'll keep 3 cards against Bravo. He can be more disruptive than that, whereas an Oldhim more than likely isn't. So you don't necessarily go for double Howl in this matchup. You just want Howl value where you can find it, because you want to punish the turns where Bravo just has a dud hand of like an Anothos. You want your dud hands to at least still pull Howl out and throw 9, because that's what you should be able to do, right? Like your bad attacks are still base 6. Your Howl's going to give +3. So that's kind of how you grind out the mid game. But this matchup is still like, at best 40-60 for Levia. Like, at best. You can be a great Levia pilot. There's just a lot of things Bravo can do to throw you off and make you lose the game without much control. So, knowing Edward, I mean, this dude comments on Twitter that he is, like 36-2 with his Bravo deck, and like, join in on his Talishar streams and you'll learn all the Bravo secrets, blah, blah, blah. So he's no joke. And he's got the respect of Kale McCreath as well. That should tell you, like, how relevant this guy is as a Bravo player. He's quite good. So we jump into the game here, and he does win the die roll and chooses to go first, which is correct for him. You can normally sneak in some kind of cheeky dominate damage, which is always nice for the Bravo. But what he does here is actually starts with a Stamp Authority. And Stamp Authority is going to draw him up to 5 cards in hand, a card in arsenal. I mean, he is off to the races with the ability to start paying for really expensive hands. And as I look at my hand, it was a hand that really needed him to help me block down a bit and actually trim it, because my hand sucks. My hand is a This Rounds, a Rouse, and I think like a Writhing. So I'm really conceding that this hand is likely not going to get any better for me unless I can draw a 6. Because if I draw a 6 from the This Rounds, then at least I know my Shadow Blazafet will hit and get me Howl. So if I just play the Shadow without playing This Rounds, then I'm at risk of less chances of hitting a 6 on the draw discard, when that's really what I need to make this hand good at all. It won't be a great damage hand, but if I can get Howl out on my turn 1, it's quite relevant. So I do play the This Rounds on me. At this point, he's got as many cards as he wants anyway. Whatever, draw a card, I don't care. And then the card I draw is a Reckless Swing. And then the card I draw off of Shadow Blazafet is another This Rounds on me. So I just saw like 3 misses in sequence in my hand. I was able to at least pitch the Rouse, play out the This Rounds, but I still had 2 misses in hand when I played the Shadow Blazafet. But I did hit, so that was lucky. That was quite lucky. I mean, nothing I can say about that. That's just luck. At the same time, it was unlucky to have that draw sequence happen, but whatever. We bailed ourselves out on the discard. So I do banish the Howl here. And the cool thing about even seeing a Reckless Swing this early is I know for a fact that the Bravo is going to dominate this attack. Like, what else is he going to do with all those cards? What else is he going to do with the Seismic Surge? Like, he's just absolutely stacked with cards right now. So if I put the Reckless Swing in Arsenal, it's actually quite good value in denying dominate damage early, because I don't really have blood debt I care about yet. I have 1 blood debt, sure. But if I can take away a good hand from him and not take damage, not take some crush effect, then I can hopefully survive a new turn cycle into him having more of a weak hand, which is, for Bravo, still most likely 6 damage because he'll make a Surge, a Nothos, whatever. But this is pretty much exactly as I wanted things to happen. He comes in with a dominant attack. It's not by him paying, it's by him being it's by him playing a Terra Sunder, which is a bit more stressful, because now if I can't exactly block it, I will be discarding 2, which you never like as Levia. But the cool thing here is he plays a Terra Sunder and he pitches a Terra Sunder. So now, if we're worried about late game threats, there's likely only 1 Terra Sunder coming up in the pitch stack, and I'm just hoping that it's at a point where he can't keep that hand, because he needs to keep a 3-card hand to be able to Terra Sunder. So it was, I did like seeing that. I was happy with that. Terra Sunder on board, Terra Sunder pitched. Phew! That is only 1 I really need to worry about late game, and maybe I can keep Husk to turn it off. So the cool thing here is, with that Reckless Swing, I'm able to exactly block 8, thanks to the This Rounds on me, -1 as well, on his Thunderquake Terra Sunder. What's also pretty lucky is I hit the exact Reckless Swing discard I wanted, like literally the exact one. So we're having 2 turn cycles of having actually quite bad hands, but the discards are exactly the one I need them to be. Because in this scenario, right, I could have discarded the Blood Rush, which I don't want to lose in deck. I definitely don't want to lose that from having it in my deck. I won't play it in this hand, but I want it to at least be pitched back into my deck. And that would have been awful. I wouldn't have dealt the 2 damage from Reckless either. So that would have been worst case. I could have also discarded the Mark of the Beast, which could have, banished itself, ramped up my blood debt, forced me to then play out Hungering Slaughter Beast, which would have stripped my graveyard really, really quickly, which is probably okay. The graveyard's already pretty full with 1, 2, 3, 4. I think there's 5 cards in graveyard right now. So it's not awful to start banishing it. But if the Bravo pivots to more of a fatigue strat when your graveyard gets really low, it can be scary because all their cards tend to block 3. So yeah, like I said, the discard there was just kind of the perfect case, because I'd rather play out the Mark of the Beast, not touch my graveyard just yet, and reset that Blood Rush in Arsenal, and hopefully go from there. So, pretty great, pretty great. He then returns his hand with a undominated Righteous Cleansing, which is actually, when Bravos play this card, I'm really happy about it, because I don't care at all about the banish effect, like pretty much not at all. Yeah, they can discard some cards that are quite relevant, like a Blood Rush. That stuff kind of hurts, but what it means mostly is they kept a 3-card hand to only deal 10, which is a very bad rate. Like, I can do a 2-card hand 9 from 2 lines. I can do it with Endless Maw. I can do it with Boneyard Marauder plus a blue with Howl from Beyond. I can do a 2-card 10 with Ghostly Visit and Dread Screamer. And my 3 cards are normally like 12 or 13 because of Howl, Howl, Hungering, Howl, Howl, Writhing Beastalk. So my rates are better than what he just played on this Righteous Cleansing. So I'm normally happy when they keep cards to pull this off, because it is better for me in the damage trade. And like I said, the hit effect is pretty much irrelevant. So I do still block here, which is maybe confusing at first because it's letting the crush effect through. I block only 6, so I still let exactly 4 through for the crush effect. But what I'm trying to do here is salvage my graveyard a bit. My graveyard is a lot of non-6s, so I'm blocking with a Boneyard and a Wrecker Romp to try to help my graveyard, sustain itself a little bit more, because I still have a really good rate hand of, I believe we're about to see it, a blue plus Boneyard, which is the 2-card 9 I'm talking about. So, yep, that's exactly what we got here. So this is a huge demonstration of the rates of Levia, because he just kept 3 cards for 10. Here's my 2 cards for 9. That's crazy. That's quite good. And what he banished there was a blue Dread Screamer. So he's ramping up my blood debt and also taking a pretty decent blue from me. So I'm a bit worried that maybe my next hand just doesn't have a blue anymore, which is a little bit risky. But it seemed like he didn't have a very obvious choice on the Righteous Banish. So I'm hoping my hand is a bit more flexible and, still quite live. So on the banish here, we actually don't turn off blood debt, which is pretty okay. I mean, my graveyard was in a bad spot, right? It had a bunch of non-blocks in it from the early game. So I'm at least getting the misses out now at the cost of taking 2 blood debt early. Now, any blood debt is relevant. Any self-damage you take in this matchup is really relevant, because Bravo is a deck that can always try to close the late game with threats like Pummel that really make your life thresholds very scary. Very, very, very scary. Because if he gets you into that Pummel lock state, and you're not at the right life to kind of bait one bluff turn around it, then you will most likely lose for the rest of the game. So any bit of damage you take is definitely still scary, even this early in the game. But, it was still a good rate. Happy enough with that. Hey, what's up? Person with large teeth in your profile picture. I'm not going to say your name. What up, my gamer? I had nothing to do today. I thought I had work coming up, but it only took like an hour to get that project done. So I figured, why not go over some of the stream stuff from the weekend? It was really good. Like, these games are really quality, so hopefully my sleep-deprived, slightly hungover brain can still get you some good commentary here, because there's a lot to learn from this game. I really think this is one of the better games I've ever played, and this is against someone who is also like a god at Bravo. Like, we are quite literally the probably best, okay, I'm not going to say best Levi player in NA. I haven't met all the Levi players, but as far as things go, I'm one of the better ones at least. Kendra, shout out to Kendra. She's also local to the Denver area, and she was playing Levi this weekend and did really respectably. She's quite good. But here we go, like someone who is known for Levia, known to hopefully play it perfectly against someone who plays Bravo definitely perfectly. And this is all this guy does. He's known for it. He's got Kale McCreath's blessing. He's basically the U.S. Kale McCreath. So this was an amazing match to capture on camera. And as we see here, what we caught the Bravo in was one of his 2-card hands that's just a Nothos. And we normally want to end up taking turns like that, because that is not a good rate that was just thrown at us. It was 2 cards to present 6. That was 3 damage per card. And those are the rates that we can beat. So if that's what he's turning his 2-card hand into, we want to just say, okay, fine. I'm not going to use my cards that are worth 3 block to match an attack that was only worth 3 on your end. I can probably convert my 3 blocks into more damage than just the 3 that you presented per card. And that's what we see here. You know, a Blood Rush is a great way to actually turn a large hand into hopefully a very live hand. Now, it doesn't go perfectly because we do draw a lot of reds. So it's not going to quite be the Claw Claw attack turn, but it's still going to be a respectable turn. You would have always loved to see a blue here, but it's okay. We kind of clumped blues in the beginning. We saw those Reckless, the Rouse, the This Rounds. All that was very, very sticky together. He even got rid of the Blue Dread Screamer. So, you know, it's all right. Like, yeah, we drew all reds. We at least get in the nice cost curve of Claw into Hungering Slaughterbeast, reset our arsenal. We miss 5 damage, but we're up in arsenal. Can't hate it too much. Here we go. Let's just skip some of this. There we go. So the damage trace is still in his favor, and it actually is quite good for him in positions like this, where he converts a 1-card hand into 4, because that is a good rate. He's turning 1 card into 4 damage. He didn't keep a 2nd card just to give +2 on a Nothos, basically. So this is when it can get dicey, because he's already up on the damage trade. He's turning his cards into really good rate here. I need to make sure that I'm not screwing things over for myself and messing up what my turn cycle's trying to be. Because at least we have Howl from Beyond here to start crafting the hand a bit better. I don't quite see what's in my hand. It looks like a Swing Big, a Hungering Slaughterbeast, and beyond that, I don't know. Let's see it. I'm definitely in the tank on this one. So I think the reason I'm debating on that is I couldn't convert my hand into really being worth more than he presented by keeping 3 cards. Because if I had, I think, red, red, yellow, red. So it feels bad to block 6 on a 4 attack. But what am I doing by keeping the extra card? Nothing of rate. So I do just go ahead and say, okay, this turn cycle is definitely not looking good for me. We'll at least convert a 2-card hand for 7, which is better than what Bravo can do. So that's what we're trying to play right now. The grindy mid-game is all about just having a better rate than the Bravo, because you don't have the hit effects that the Bravo does. So you need to grind through with your actual good rates to get him into a spot where he can't keep hands anymore to push dominated effects on you, to push pummels on you. So we're playing that part of the game pretty well, especially since, once again, we see this rate that we love to abuse. 2-card hand for 6. We're in the tank here, thinking about it a bit, but I believe what I am able to do with this hand is convert it into... is this my Swing Big for 12? Is that what's happening? Oh, please tell me that's what happened. I think I saw Swing Big. Yeah. Okay, so this is one of the greater hand values you can have in Levia, right? Is a 3-card hand for 12. You can do that either with Dread Screamer into Yellow Graveling with a blue. You can do that with Red Unworldly into Swing Big, which is what came up here. And these are the rates that really push this matchup over the top. Bravo cannot hope to match that. He cannot beat that. Unless, of course, he's got, you know, a bunch of seismic surges that were built up from a previous heave or whatever the heck. But, yeah, just looks really good, because now we've taken 3 cards out of him. We finally smacked him for some damage. He doesn't even keep the Quicken, which might have been a bit of a mistake on his end. Bravo can... I mean, he could have just blocked with his whole hand there, gotten the Quicken, and just gave up on swinging a Nothos for 4. And then maybe he can actually punish with some, you know, big attack into an Nothos for 6 right after. But he decides to keep on the grind of immediate value of turning 1 card into 4 damage. So can't fault him for that. He's still up on the damage trade, right? So that's definitely what he's going for. But we do draw into another Blood Rush hand. Now, the interesting thing about this hand, though, is I could force Blood Rush, but what it means is I wouldn't be able to play out Doomsday, because Doomsday is my blue in the hand, right? So if I pitch my Doomsday for Blood Rush, then I'm not going to see Doomsday this game. And Doomsday in this game is an extra 6 life. Bravo cannot let it live. He just cannot. So Doomsday basically guarantees that I'm going to buy an extra 6 life, and also it's a 1 card that deals 6 damage. Like, it's quite good. So it looks a little strange here, because my hand is Blood Rush playable. It's a blue, it's 2 6s, and a Blood Rush, with a way to turn off Blood Debt in Arsenal. But instead, what I can pivot this hand to is preserving a Blood Rush in deck. Preserving it in deck, getting the Doomsday out right now, so that I can try to buy a fresh hand for myself. Because that's what I really, really need to actually get ahead on where damage is being presented right now. Because I'm still a bit behind. Right? And when behind, a Blood Rush would have been able to let me throw damage, sure, but it doesn't threaten anything that makes Bravo like not throw his crush effects back at me, basically. But by playing out Blasphemfet, now I'm saying, okay, you don't get to throw damage the way you wanted to this turn, because I'm like forcing you to hit Blasphemfet here. And with the way that the life trade just happened, that is a huge, huge tempo swing. Way bigger than playing out a Blood Rush. Which actually, shout out to Yuanji. Yuanji asked me about this turn because he was watching the stream, and he goes, why wouldn't you play Blood Rush, blah, blah, blah. And I couldn't really remember what the situation was, but now that we're seeing it on stream, it was definitely correct. You don't force the Blood Rush there. You definitely don't. Because Bravo's approaching that pivot point where when he can keep a full hand and just get that first big pummel turn off, he's going to eat your Husk on it. And then the second one, with like a crippling plus pummel or whatever it is, when you don't have Husk, is when you lose the game. That's when you lose the game in this matchup. So by putting Blasphemfet out right now, I'm trying to break the consistency of the pattern in which he wants to get those turn cycles off. I also end up with a really strong arsenal here. I get to put the Endless Maw in arsenal. Because that had been the other risk, is when I play Blood Rush, I would have discarded either a Boneyard or an Endless Maw. And those are both really, really good cards. Losing an Endless Maw is crazy. That's a 2-card hand for 9. It's like the best rate in the deck. So I didn't want to risk that on the Blood Rush either, knowing this is kind of a grindy game. But now we see what happened. He killed Blasphemfet, and he lost the turn cycle. He killed Blasphemfet, which, yeah, sure, like, Blasmo's gone. I won't see him again. But he also passed turn on 3 less life into my full 5 cards. This is fantastic. This is where I need to be. This is where I need to throw as much as possible to make it so that he never gets to keep 2 large hands again. He probably can keep 1, but I'm going to counter that 1 with my equipment. And then he'll never be able to keep another one after that. So that's all we were going for here. And it works out beautifully. Like, what a perfect turn cycle this was for me. Now, the unfortunate part is there were still misses in the graveyard from those early turns. I don't know if this is the turn when it comes up, per se. It might be. But I do miss on an Endless Maw this game. That was just kind of insane. I think that is this turn. So we'll see. We'll see. No, maybe it's not this turn. I don't quite remember. But, is it? That's a blue in hand. Yeah, this might be it. This might be it. But regardless, like, this is still what we're trying to do. I closed the chain to give myself a better chance on banishing the 6s here with Endless Maw. So this is all still according to plan. Like, if I can present a 15 damage turn here, it's pretty incredible. He already showed me that he was willing to start blocking this turn, so I'm hopeful that he doesn't have, like, the God hand yet. And if that's true, then we can probably buy another turn cycle of pushing him down just a little bit, leaking damage here and there, so that he doesn't keep that second large hand, right? Now, unfortunately... Okay, no. This Endless Maw does hit. This one does hit. It's the next one that misses, I believe. So yeah, we still come in for 9 here, which is really, really good, because we see him blocking with a Crippling Crush. And we're not entirely sure he would have kept the Crippling Crush. He did have a red and Sink Below in hand, but it starts to bode well, because we already know he only has 1 Terra Sunder left. Now we've seen a Crippling Crush as well. So with those threats already gone, we're counting 2 more Crippling, 1 more Terra Sunder, and if we can get those to line up on turns where we force him to block, I mean, we probably just win, right? So he returns with CNC. We still have our Crown up, and it's not like he's threatening Pummel, but the issue is my hand doesn't really block out CNC and let me do anything. So I do believe... let's see, do I decide on the block or do I Crown? Yeah, I do Crown. If I Crown here, it's probably one of the last moments he's going to CNC as well, because he did block with 1 early, and now he plays 1 out. And the hands he's going to be most likely to keep moving forward are not CNC hands. They're going to be the Terra Sunder or the Crippling Crush hand. So it's probably my last chance to actually get good value on the sync effect there. So we play out an Art of War, and this is quite nice. It's just a bit of an extender, right? Because in this matchup, I'm not taking I'm not taking Gambler's Gloves. I value the 1 HP on Skull Crushers a bit too much, just because it's protecting more value than just the 1 life. Like, it's not just 1 life, it's a discard effect, it's a crush effect, and we did see that come up on the Terra Sunder on his turn 2. So the Art of War here is a perfect draw, because otherwise I didn't really have a great way to make this turn super threatening, because now I can turn it into a turn where I in theory present lethal. Midnight reveal? No, I'm gonna do it at what do I say? Noon? What did I type? Because 12 p.m. is noon. 12 a.m. would be midnight. I don't think I typed 12 a.m. Spoiler, noon. Yeah, I did say noon. So no midnight. Sorry, Zach. Sorry. I still need to make the video. I've got it in the process of editing, but it's not finished. So I need to do that after the stream. I just wanted to jump on and really talk about these games. I thought they were so fascinating. This game in particular is one of the, like I said, one of the best games I've ever played. So I hope you're enjoying. What's the date? The date is tomorrow, right? But what do you mean what's the date? November 1st is tomorrow. That's the reveal. Tomorrow. Hopefully we see a lot of brute cards tomorrow. That would be fantastic. But back to the game. This is the Endless Maw I'm talking about, okay? So hold up. The Endless Maw here actually is a huge punt because I miss turning on its ability. I'd already turned off Blood Debt from the Art of War, which is fantastic, but I miss gaining the +3 on this Endless Maw. And every bit of damage is super relevant because I just turned my 2 cards into 3 damage per card, right? I pitched a blue, I played an Endless Maw, and it only came in for 6. That's an Anothos rate. That's what I don't want to be doing in this matchup. It's how you start to lose. Now, what's incredible, though, about this turn cycle is we called this perfectly. Like, we called this exactly in terms of, like, pace of play, how we wanted things. This is the last turn he gets to keep a large hand because now he's at 7. He will never be able to keep a hand that's this disruptive again. He just won't. And the unfortunate news for us, though, is the way he's presenting it, it's most likely pummel. In fact, pretty much definitely pummel. Otherwise, he would dominate it here. So we have to respect the pummel crush effect because that is how you lose the game. I'm already at, I think, like 16 Blood Debt or something. So I can't just skip a turn, take Blood Debt, pass back into him, because that does give him then a free hand to kill me. So I'm in the tank for a little bit about this decision because I'm wondering if I need to block over the pummel or if I can block so that the pummel hit goes through but not the crush effect and still lose a card. And I'm thinking about, like, would I be okay if that was the case, or do I need to actually protect the full hand? And what I decide is I do need to protect the full hand itself. And so what that forces me to do is play out a defensive Art of War, pitching the Howl from Beyond, which, like I said, we're not really going for double Howl this game, so I don't mind getting rid of it. Like, it's not a priority. I have the one that I need, especially with how low he is. So I pitch the Howl from Beyond. It's all I need to pay for because I know I can't actually draw into a second Art of War and get all wonky with it because I only run the 2 right now, and I played 1, and here's my second. So it's a very safe pitch to just get rid of a red 2 block there. I say banish to draw and +1 on defense. So I knew that I had a way to turn off Blood Debt already. I had the Writhing Beast Hulk in hand, so I was hoping to draw into a resource card to keep that 2-card hand, because then that would let me block for 8 from hand, or 7. 8 or 7. Like, I could draw a Blood Rush there and it's fine. And then block with Scabs and block with Husk. And that would put me at 16, or if I'd drawn a 3 block, that was a non-attack, 15. And both of those numbers would protect me from a pummel crippling. So I was really happy with how this worked out. We went ahead and blocked 16. And the beauty of this, though, is he just doesn't get to do this again, is the hope, right? That's the hope. Because if he ever keeps a large hand again, that means he went low enough that Reckless Swing is probably lethal. It's low enough that, like, maybe even just a Writhing is lethal. Now, my return isn't the best hand. Like, returning exactly 7 would have been incredible with, like, a Red Hungering Slaughter Beast, but at least I'm returning 6 here. I'm turning off Blood Debt, and I'm putting him in range of, you know, if you want a full keep, you will die to Reckless. Because he's only got 2 block left on his equipment. So that would put him at, what, he'd take 4 down, oh, no, okay, yeah, he'd take 4 down to 3, so never mind. Never mind. He has 2 block in equipment. He could still deny Reckless rate from where he's at. So, never mind, not quite exactly right. But we still like it. We still like it. We turned off Blood Debt. Now we're just hoping that this specific hand isn't a discard hand. And especially with him blocking out here, I get, you know, I'm pretty fortunate in that I probably have room now to reset Arsenal, which is always big in a late game turn like this. So we were just lucky on that hand because he had Spinal, but his hand would have been Spinal, Blue, Blue, Red Staunch. So in no scenario there does he just like hold the red staunch and do nothing else. Because that's what it would have been. He just blocks with 2 equipment and then like plays out Spinal and wait, actually, how would that have worked? So Spinal's 5. So he could have paid for it with 2 blues, had 1 floating, and then he could use the staunch to pitch into Pummel. That's interesting, actually. I think he should have gone for that. Oh, I didn't notice that when we played the game. But with the resources in hand, he could have presented Pummel on the Spinal, which would have denied me the room to reset Arsenal, which would have also been really big for him. So, because this is what I needed to happen. I needed for his turn to just be vanilla damage, so I get to reset my Arsenal. I get to once again present lethal and build myself the safety net that I need as a Levia player. So, interesting. I think he misplayed that then. So here we go. Just turning off Blood Debt. At this point I can't miss because those early misses I took when I took 2 Blood Debt from missing the banish triggers on the Boneyard Marauder early game did at least clear me out. And then missing the 3 on Endless Maw also did clear me out. So at least I'm not in the point in the game where it's like, oh my god, I could just die because there's 3 misses. That at least won't happen anymore. So that's fortunate. That's fortunate at least. That part of the game is going okay. We do come in for exactly 7, which at this point would be enough to say, if you block with only equipment, you die to Reckless. Oh, shoot, sorry, I forgot as well. Okay, hold up, let me rewind. I think we both forgot about this. I actually played out a Howl, so this was coming in for 10, which is even better. I forgot to mention that about this turn cycle. That's even better, because like I was saying, you don't need the double Howl in this matchup, you just need to grind your smaller hands into better than what he could do. So in this case, we turned a 3-card hand into 10, which is what he did with the Righteous Cleansing. But he had to rely on the Seismic Surge to pull that off. Whereas we're just able to do that, pulling a recursive threat that we might be able to even replay next turn cycle. So we still like those rate hands. They're not the best, but they're still quite good. I noticed that one as soon as I saw the Spinal and pitch. Definitely a funky play. Yeah. I think he should have changed his line there. But what it would have done is put him to exactly 3, right? He goes in for Spinal Pummel. I'm at 20. I could just eat it. Take the 13, discard one of my cards, still return with Hungering for 7. He'd now be at 3, and I would still Arsenal. So the only difference actually would have been the damage that I would get from Howl or not. I still would have been able to set my Arsenal. So maybe that's what he was thinking about in that turn cycle. I'm not quite sure. But regardless, he waits to play Pummel for when his hand's a bit better for it. But we are fortunate to have a Beast Within on that exact hand, so we can cycle out the Pummel discard effect into drawing a new card. Now, what I was hoping for here was to just keep away to turn off Blood Debt in Arsenal. Because I did have the line open to just not discard Beast Within, not risk taking the life, and just say, screw it, I lose it a card from hand, I'm going to return with my Mark of the Beast from Arsenal, pitching another card, throwing 6 at you, but then I do lose my Arsenal, would be the trade-off. So I decide Beast Within is worth it. I don't quite remember what's going on in the pitch stack, honestly, because it's just kind of, like in Bravo, you don't get that much control over your pitch stack, it's just kind of a mess. You just have to play your hands that you get, because they can be so aggressive out of nowhere. So the banish triggers on that Beast Within were actually very, very bad for us. We lost our last Reckless because we played our other one turn 2. We lost a Rouse, which is honestly fine. And we lost a Blood Rush. Now, we know there's still 2 Blood Rushes in the deck. Yeah, you discarded Reckless Swing and used it 1. That was actually okay. Sure, it was like guaranteed lethal in his... Well, okay, here's the funny part about that, right? In theory, if I drew it, it was lethal next hand. But his next hand was actually a CNC hand. So I wouldn't be able to Reckless Swing and kill him on that hand anyway. So it actually would have clunked me up, to be fair. Like, it would have been a bit of a clunk hand, because it was Blood Rush, Reckless, Rouse. I don't want to draw those 3 cards. Like, not gonna lie. I don't want to draw that. That's super funky. So, I'm actually okay with how that worked out. Yes, it would have probably been lethal, like, eventually, because I just block around it, put Reckless in Arsenal, whatever, win later. But I'm very convinced here that I do still just win, because he's locked on having to block with 2 cards every turn. There's no way he gets to ever block with just 1 card again. It's just not possible. And Bravo stuck at 2 cards is not going to be better than 6. It's just not going to be better than 6. And I still have Scabskins up at 1 as well. So if it ever is somehow like a 2-card hand 7, which they might run like Crush Confidence or something, I can at least still block with card from hand, with Scab Skins. Oh no, I'm at 3, I guess, so that's irrelevant. That's not a playline, actually. I wouldn't be able to block 4, still take 3, and live. But, you know, whatever. Theory's there. I had 1 block on armor left. I felt good about it. So even though we're throwing bad rates back at him, we're stalling because we know our deck gets to keep now 2-card hands with Arsenal, which will eventually win over him stuck on 2-card hands. So I felt pretty good about this game, like at this point. We played everything right. We got unlucky basically 3 times. We got lucky 1 time. And so overall, like, you know, to actually pull out this game felt quite good. It was a lot of hedging. It was a lot of playing for card value really well. There's a lot of kind of sideways decisions in like blocking 6 on an Anothos, you know, going for like a this round's play, which probably scares people a lot because he's already on like 5-6 cards from Stamp Authority. So there were a lot of like choices that were a little oblong in this game that I really, really enjoyed because of how good the game ended up being. Because you got to remember, at this point, I've dealt 5 damage to myself. I took 2 Blood Debt early. Oh no, sorry, I took 3 Blood Debt early because I took Howl once, and then I took Howl plus another thing on the next turn. So that's 3 damage to myself, plus another 3 from the Beast Within. That is now 6 damage I have dealt to myself, and look where we're at. Look where we're at. It's pretty great. It is quite nice. So there we go. We preserved those Blood Rushes early. We got ourselves to a point in the game where we have now preserved an attack in Arsenal. So we will win the game whenever we're able to fire off a Blood Rush, basically. Because at this point, it was impossible to draw double reds. That's what I was doing in the graveyard count. I was just looking through, making sure. And I think there was only like 1 card combination that was double reds, and I knew it couldn't happen because it was like Howl plus like a Writhing or something, which I knew were not next to each other. So I didn't remember quite exactly what was my stack, but as long as I drew even a blue and a red, I would be able to claw, play out Shadow Blasphemous from Arsenal. So I knew I had it from that hand, which is quite nice. This freeze? Come on. So, yeah, it was just a really good game. I thought this game was perfect. In terms of Levia play, it was a perfect game. Really, really freaking enjoyed it. In terms of the Bravo play, I think the one questionable part, oh my god. The one questionable part could have been his choice on the Staunch versus Pummel, but I think we figured out that he's not right to do it there anyway. But it didn't work out for him either when he did try to force it because I just had Beast Within, which was also nice, but we did pitch that back in. We pitched the Beast Within back in on one of our Endless Maw turns, so we knew that was coming. Which was nice. It just lined up really well. And that was... Oh, are people joining the league? Hell yeah. I hear the sound effects, but I can't actually see OBS on my laptop. I don't see your names. I think it was like Blue and something else. Thank you. Thank you. So there we go. That was the 2 games I played on stream. The Kano game, even, like I said, even for having like the worst board possible, was incredibly close. I was very impressed by that game. And then this game was a perfect game. This game is like... I don't want to, like, you know, inflate my ego too much, but like this was a Levia Masterclass type of game because this is a bad matchup versus someone who's really good at this freaking deck. And we overcame it. We played exactly around how you have to win the matchup, even with no actual tech cards. We basically played for like vanilla flesh and blood value and hedging in the appropriate spot, which is why I freaking love Levia. She is a deck of very honest numbers. It's just numbers. But you don't get a lot out of her in a short game. You don't. Your short game numbers are not great unless you high roll with Blood Rushes. Your numbers are insane when you play grindy. You play for turn cycles that are in your favor because of the rate of cards that you played back on your opponent. It's such a fun way to play the game. That's why I'm addicted to her. And I love Recursion as that playstyle because it gives you more choice. When you run like Pulping and Wild Ride, you don't get much choice. You're just forced to play aggro and hope that you have better rate than what your opponent drew. Because inherently, you actually don't have better rate with stuff like Pulping Wild Ride. Those are 2-card hands for 6 that end up making the deck build a little bit awkward because you can't just run your full suite of blues to make it so that you always get like Pulping, you know, off a blue into discard, draw another blue, into like Claw for basically a 3-card hand for 12. That's like the best rate those cards can really push out on a small hand, and it's a variance rate. Whereas Recursion is like almost no variance. You play for the grind, you play for your value, and you just beat a lot of decks right now. So I was so excited to play this deck this weekend. You might have pushed. All right, let me check the chat. You might have pushed out damage using the spinal pummel earlier, especially since the health values got so close. Yeah, to be fair though, it really does change a lot because it does alter the reckless swing draw, which if at that point he had gone to 3, then he actually wouldn't be able to keep the CNC hand most likely on our return because he'd be out of equipment and we'd be throwing. Oh no, he'd still be able to block with 2 cards on the next and swing CNC because we throw 7. He'd block 2, go to 2, and then reckless swing really is lethal. So as long as we are able to, even like lose arsenal doesn't matter, as long as we're able to not die to the CNC and just hold reckless, we eventually win no matter what. So I think it's just a lose-lose. Whether he did it that turn or not, that turn was us given a free arsenal. And like that was just going to win us the game from then on out. It didn't matter whether he pummeled that turn or not, I think, if I'm reading the thing correctly. Double unmovable last turn. Yeah, but you know what that means is he just can't survive. Like, he just can't. He gets to block claw, but then what are you going to do in the last swing? It's pretty remarkable. What matchups do you prefer to use recursion against? Dromai and the Guardians, which to be fair is like pretty much everything I played this weekend. I played against some Icelander. Against Icelander, I do prefer the aggro package because they play so aggro. Like, Icelander is just trying to outvalue you. Like, that's all they're trying to do. But they're getting scared these days of actually attacking you to let you fill graveyard. So you can kind of get around that by just running your non-blocks, and you don't really get punished a lot of the time because they don't want to attack you. They think they're going to win the matchup by just trying to play more arcane-based, but then you run them over with your draw discard. So actually, that matchup's quite good for draw discard. And then I run draw discard into anything that's more of a... Oh my god, the air is so dry here. I need water. The draw discard is good against anything that is more of a coin flip in terms of damage race. So like Phi, Briar, Viscerai, that stuff is a very non-interactive matchup. That's just how it's going to be. They're going to try to keep their hands. So if they're going to try to keep their hands, you need to try to keep your hands that deal more damage, because you're never going to deal more damage blocking. Your cards don't scale with value blocking. They block like 3 or 0, right? So you're not incentivized actually to make it a long game in those matchups. You're incentivized to make it a long game when you have more grind, which against those you just won't have. They deal damage too quickly. Oh yes, that playmat. So I actually thought I forgot my playmats at home. I was freaking out. I couldn't find them. So I asked if anyone had a playmat, and someone gave me this one to use. But then it turns out I did have my playmats. They were just tucked away in a different part of my suitcase. What do you think about Ghostly Visit over Deeper Rooted Evil? Have a love-hate relationship. Deeper Rooted Evil is absolutely garbage. That card is just not good enough. Like, there's this whole idea that Vasily was talking about, where you get to just start, like, add 1 Deeper Rooted Evil, add 3 yellow Ghostly Visit, and you'll just fatigue out Old Him. And the reality of that is there's not a single Old Him right now that is going to fatigue you. Not a single one. Like, Old Him at this point, especially when you play Worlds level players, they know they cannot win through fatigue. As soon as they see the first howl, they're going to realize they can't win through fatigue. And so running a rate built around just having 4 cards every turn is not great. Because Deeper Evil is a very, very card intensive attack, because it costs 3 alone. So it's at best trading 1 blue for 6. And that does not work really well when a deck like a Guardian is trying to throw attacks at you and be disruptive. So in a perfect world, if you're just playing against Fatigue Old Him, and all they're doing is blocking out and then throwing Hammer for 4, you get to keep a full card hand that is yellow Dread Screamer, blue, blue, and then the other card doesn't matter. And it lets you play around Ice React, because you get to just play yellow Dread Screamer off blue, break Frostbite, and then even if they Ice React you get to pitch blue into Deeper Rooted Evil. And so you'll actually beat out the plan that Old Him has of block 3, swing Whale. Block 3, swing Whale. You will outvalue that. But you don't outvalue that because that's not what Old Hims are doing anymore, especially with PulseCon. Maybe you used to, but you can't now. Old Him is like aggro as all get out. So no, Deeper Rooted Evil is just not the right card anymore for trying to beat out grind matchups. I would way rather double howl any day. Any day. because it's way more of a high roll too. If you find a Deeper to Evil early, it's okay, but it's not unlocking some insane rate. If you find a Hell from Beyond early, the game's on lock. Like, the game just feels so free. Because even 1 makes all your Boneyard Marauders 2-card hands for 9. So you pitch a blue for Howl Boneyard, that's basically another Endless Maw. It's so insane. And that alone buys you really, really great tempo into finding your second one, and then the game's just on lock at that point, because you're running like the Mark of the Beast, the Hungerings, the Dreads, the Writhings, these 2-card hands, or these 2 cost attacks that let you play double Howl off of 2 blues next to them. It's so good. It's so freaking good. Happy Spook Day. Thank you, Defunks. Thank you. Hey, you see, Defunks, check this out. Look what Levia art I was using. People loved it. People absolutely loved it. This card, I wish you could see it in better quality. It was altered by the wonderful Defunks in chat, who, oh my god, has done such a fantastic job. When I'm actually set up with a better stream setup, I want to show it off more properly. But it's really cool. There's like a little dead Levia, little baby Levia dead on the floor, and then big Levia on top of her. It's really cool. Yeah, it arrived quite literally as I was leaving for San Jose, or for Denver, then San Jose. I checked the mailbox one last time, and it just got there. That was nice. But okay, I do have to sign off now. I just wanted to jump in and go over those games. I have to do some more work before heading out to this next leg of the trip. But that was fun. It was a fun weekend, like I said. Unfortunate that X2 isn't good enough to make cut. But it's, it's all right. It's the Levia record that you should all hope to get, because you take a loss to variance, you take a loss to yourself or your opponent, whatever it is, and you should be pretty happy with X2. Like, it's almost the best you can hope to get with Levia. So honestly, out of the weekend, I'm just happy games like this were caught on stream, because like that's the win, right? That's the win. More than making top 8, honestly. But it was good practice going into Worlds for sure. I feel way better about Recursion Levia right now. Like, the deck is just insane. I feel no better about Blitz. I didn't play any Blitz. No one was really looking to play Blitz, which I get it. I think everyone's trying to keep their tech like really super secret. Yeah, it was cool. It was cool. Send the Levia list. Yeah, it's actually posted in the Discord, so you can just check it out there under the deck list channel. Also, if you guys want more coverage, there is the Denver PTI 1K that I was not prepared to stream, because I honestly thought I was going to make top 8. I bubbled at 11th. Oh well. But I thought I was going to make top 8, so I'm like, oh yeah, like I can't really do the stream because like I don't have time. But then as soon as I found out I got 11th, with like a 20-minute break window, I like ran to set this up, and you can see like at first, like I don't have like any of the overlay stuff built, so we like started doing it as the stream went on, with like the top cut and whatever, and then by the last round, by finals, we even were able to get commentary in. But this is an entire top 8 played in an hour and a half, so it's a pretty quick watch, and they're pretty good games with some big names. You got Philip McKay. You got who was in this one? Isaac and Cheese. And you got Isaac again and versus Jay. It was cool. So anyway, give that a look. I'm gonna sign off, and you'll see the spoiler video tomorrow. So definitely tune in for that.